Hello, everyone out there. If you were here, you'd be having pizza, so that's your punishment for not being here. Okay. My name is John Jackson, and I'm here to present this set of modules that I wrote. I'll give you some background first. I started writing this about 10 or 12 years ago. At a company, we were testing a phone system, and at the time, I was the head of a very small automation group, and I wrote a bunch of Perl scripts to manipulate the phone system to make calls and transfer and all that kind of stuff. But in order to set the switch up the way you needed it, you had to program the database in the switch, and we had a Windows application that did that. And at the time, I looked for some Perl modules, and this is, like I said, 10 or 12 or so years ago. There wasn't a whole lot out there for automation that looked like it was really going to help me. So we ended up buying Microsoft Test, and which is designed for testing Windows GUIs and things like that. I wrote a little interface to be able to control it from Perl. But then sometime later, I was asked, well, we need to test the database programming application itself. Okay, and then we started writing more and more Microsoft Test scripts and quickly ran into a bunch of walls that a lot of languages have that Perl doesn't have. Okay, so I said, I really got to get some Perl modules to do this. So I started working on this suite of modules, and then not too long after that, they decided that they were going to drop or abandon or move away from the Windows application to program the database and move to a web-based application, so all this became pointless, and I stopped working on it. But I have been tweaking it now and then over the past 12 years and adding stuff to it and improving things, so because it's potentially a very useful system. So let's see, where was I? 1, 2. Oh, okay. And I have spent a lot of hours on this, so one of my goals was to make it very, very easy to use, and I hope you'll agree that it is easy to use. And here is the current suite I have. GUIAutomate is, of course, the base object. And mostly all it does is well, what makes this work at all is there's a Win32 API module that lets Perl talk to the system, so it lets you send system commands through Perl. And mostly what GUIAutomate does is it just provides all the different calls that I need to use, or makes Perl versions or Perl calls of all the calls that I need to make in order to make the rest of the system work. And one of the biggest ones is, anyway, so I use Strawberry Perl on this machine here. And if you don't have Strawberry Perl, you might want to check to make sure that it comes with Win32 API. If it doesn't, you'll have to install it for this to work. I just realized, too, I didn't put it on here. I am using a module also called error-pm, which provides a simple try-catch syntax, which the documentation said, don't use this. Because there are problems, but I thought, well, I'm using really, really simple stuff, and I think it's okay, and I haven't had any problems. I think they said that there are cases where it doesn't parse right or something like that. It's probably some really, really complicated things people are doing, and I'm not doing anything complicated. So I'm using that. I did include that, when this is published on YouTube, there will be a link to this PowerPoint, all the demonstration files, the modules, and I included the error.pm just in case you weren't sure how to get that, although I didn't include Win32 API, which I probably should have. But so then the next module that actually does work is the keyboard module, and that lets you simulate the keyboard activity. You can type on the keyboard. I have two methods. Oh, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get into that. So there's keyboard module. There's a library module that just provides a collection of methods that does some useful stuff for internal stuff that can be shared among the various modules. There's a mouse module that lets you simulate mouse activity, and then a window module that provides the base operations for accessing Windows. And then on top of that, I've got a button, edit box, ListView, and pop-up class to handle those particular types of windows. Okay, the keyboard module, and I've used Perl like for 5 or 6 years when I was working at that company, but I use probably only 10% of what Perl does, and even today I'm not a power Perl user. So when I started playing around with this is the first time I actually played around with objects in Perl. So I'm not a real power object person in that regard. So the keyboard, and you'll find the mouse stuff, I actually, even though it's in the keyboard module, the code actually sits in the GUIAutomate namespace because it just made it a lot more convenient for me to access. That way any window could access these methods too, and I kept having problems trying to figure out how a window would go down the chain, come back up again, or whatever, and I'm sure somebody out there can figure out how to do it right. But this module provides two methods. There's keyboard underscore text, and for that you just put in a string, and it just prints, it just types your string onto the keyboard, and it handles all of the printable characters, and treats, also handles backspace, tab, new line as enter, not as new line, and also the escape character. And then there's the keyboard virtual key, which lets you press any key at all, and can even let you press combinations. So for instance, I guess I can here, for V key you can press, you enter in just A and it presses the A key obviously, or you can press two combinations, so Control Alt, no man, where is it? No, Shift A. I should have gotten a pointer. Shift A, then presses the Shift key, it holds it down, presses the A key, lifts it up, then lifts the Shift key up. Control Alt, Delete. Actually, it's Control. I just discovered Menu Delete. We'll do a Control Alt Delete. It presses Control, presses Alt, presses Delete, and then reverses back up the chain. And you can press, oh, and you can also press a key and leave it down if you type, for instance, Control pound down, then it presses the Control key and leaves it down so you can do something else, and then you can bring it back up again with Control pound up. And you can put, again, any virtual key here. The pound down, pound up is a suffix that tells you to leave it, tells it to leave it down or leave it up, or pull it back up again. Demo time, all right. So I have a keyboard demo, and I will open a notepad, and then I will run this demo keyboard text file, which will type hello Perlmongers into notepad. And then I'll run, I have another demo called keyboard V key, which then will send the Alt F4 to notepad to close it back down. Okay, and let's see. So what was that? Perl. Oops, I got to open Notepad first, don't I? Okay, so, and there's hello Perlmongers. And then we'll do the other one. V key, and then it should just, and of course it asking you if you want to save, and a later demonstration will go through the whole process. It'll open it up, it'll write that, it'll click don't save, and then it'll all be done. But for this, we're just demonstrating the keyboard, so I'm not going to go any further than that. So I'll click don't save, and we're done. And do you want to look at, well, of course you want to look at the code, right? So, or the script anyway. Look at the script. Yeah, so let's see. Oops. So let me close all these. Sorry, I didn't prepare this ahead of time. Close all files. Okay. Oops. So let's see, that was keyboard. So here's keyboard text, and you just get a GUIAutomate window object, again, because everything, all the keyboard and the mousing stuff, again, like I said, is buried inside of the GUIAutomate class. Oh, and the reason I got a window is so that before I can type, I have to bring the notepad to the foreground. So technically, this is not part of the keyboard thing, but you have to do it in order for this demo to work. So I just said I made a new window object. The title has to match, and this is a regular expression, match untitled notepad. If it doesn't find it, I'll just die saying can't find it. I can't make this smaller. This is a old editor. So then I set Notepad to the foreground window, and because the way I have it structured, I said any window will when you say keyboard or mouse, it will just go to the appropriate routine, and then type "Hello Pearlmongers." So that's all there is to it. And then the keyboard V key, again, we need to find Notepad because I brought the command shell to the front in order to type that in. So bring Notepad to the foreground, just type keyboard V key and then menu-F4. And there's your close. Okay. Any questions?
So can you execute Notepad from the Automate script?
In the ListView one, I'll double click on a file and then it'll open it up. I was going to put that in the demo, but again, I'm not a total power user on Perl as I'd like to be. And when I said execute Notepad, Perl just stopped at that point and was waiting for Notepad to shut down or something. I don't know, but it waits until something terminates.
Gotcha.
So, and there must be some routine I can call it.
There is a routine in Win32 that will do it. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I've got scripts that load that, and so I would think you could call it from that and then just continue with the rest of the script.
Okay. But I said when we get to the ListView demo, then I will demonstrate the whole process. It'll be totally automatic. Okay, so next. Okay, mouse. This also resides in the base class, and I have mouse move, so you can set the X and Y coordinates anywhere on the screen. And it takes an optional window handle, and it will be, if you don't give it a window handle, it's relative to the screen itself. If you give it a window handle, it'll be relative to that Windows, wherever that window is. Generally, you won't use that itself because the next class is down, the button, ListView, Tree View, they provide automatically the handle so that you just say create a new button, and then you say click the button or move the mouse to the button, it just moves to the middle of the button. So it handles that for you automatically. So you can double click the mouse, you can left click it or push the left button down, and you can let it back up again. Middle button, right button, and I guess there's an X and X2. I don't know what those are. And then this is an important feature. There's a mouse wait because I implement a double click timer in there so that when you click, it starts the timer. And then if you say left click again, it will wait for the timer to expire before it does another left click. Otherwise, you'll accidentally double click. So when you press double click, then obviously internally it doesn't wait for that timer to expire. But if you, in your script, you say left click, then left click, you don't expect a double click. So the timer will take care of that for you. However, if you have clicked something, left click something, and you want to wait for the timer to expire before you continue, then you can call mouse wait. And there are a couple, I think there's a case, I think one of the demos actually does that. There's something about it that you need to wait. And this timer just kind of like runs in parallel with obviously the system timer. And also when you move the mouse, it actually cancels that timer. So if you left click, move the mouse, and then left click again within the double click time, moving the mouse actually cancels the timer window, so it obviously then cancels the timer in this module. Demo. Oh, this mouse, okay, this will be fun. So what I do with this mouse demo is it makes the mouse spin around in a circle. And it took me longer to figure out how to write that equation than it took me to write the code. So, okay, so in the code for that then is, get rid of these keyboard ones. Well, here's the mouse move. So again, let's see, I get create a GUIAutomate object because I'm not, if you create a GUI object itself, then it's still a window of a sense, but it represents, no, that's not true. There's no window involved. So you get a GUI object because I just wanted to do the mouse. So I create a GUIAutomate object. From that, I get the size of the screen, okay? So I call this and it returns a rectangle with left, right, top, bottom in it. So the center of the screen is screen rectangle right divided by 2, and the center of the Y is bottom divided by 2. I want a radius of 300, and I'm going to step my X by 25. If I do by 1, it's like a snail pace. Okay. So I just do all the rest of this is pretty much the stuff to do the circle, and then here's the power thing or routine is mouse move. So I just move to center minus my X and center minus my Y that I've calculated for the circle. And then I sleep for a little bit so that it doesn't zip a million miles a second. But that's all you need to do is to move the mouse. Okay. Any questions there? Okay. Okay, now the window class. So the desktop window is the root of all windows. I was going to say the root of all evil. That, that almost came out. And application top windows are children of the desktop, and then all the controls underneath those windows are just children of the application windows. Okay, and a window has a handle, it has a class name, and it has a title, and that's basically what we use to find the window you're looking for. So in order to find a window, you must know how to trace the window's ancestry. So first you find the application top window. For instance, I'd say the class is Notepad, because I know ahead of time that that's what Notepad's class is. And then whatever you know is going to be in, I'm pointing at the screen, you can't see that, can you? Whatever you know is going to be in the title, that's what you want in here. But don't forget that these are regular expressions, and I probably should have put an anchors on it. But these are regular expressions, so it doesn't have to be the entire string. You can just match on some part of it. And then to find the window you want to manipulate, then from using that as a parent, that window as a parent, then you say, I want to find a button. Okay, so the parent class is going to be the notepad that you find. So I want to find a button class, and then I want to find the button that says save, for instance, or don't save, or whatever. So let's see. So you find the next window that meets your search. Oh, when you find the next window, or when you find a window that meets your search, GUIAutomate remembers the handle of that window. So if you say find a window, then find another window, and find another window that happen to have the same criteria, like say you want to find 3 notepads, you're not going to get the same one every time. So you find the first one, it remembers that handle. You find the second one, it says, oh, it's going to run through the same tree as it drills down. So when it finds that handle it already found, it says, okay, forget that one. We'll go on until we find another one that matches the criteria. And you can also request a list of all the windows that meet that. So you can call this function in scalar or list mode. So scalar returns the next one that it hasn't already found. List returns every single one that it finds. And that list is useful for if you have a bunch of, say, checkboxes or something that you have, say, you don't really have a title or anything, so you have no way of knowing, picking one by title, but you know that the one you want is the third of the seventh of the 7, then you can get all 7 of them, and then you just click the third one. Okay. There's quite a few methods in this one. DisplayFamilyTree is a critical method because, again, you have to know what you're looking for ahead of time. Typically, you have to know the class name. You have to know, well, you probably know what the title is, but you've got to know what the class name. That's the hard one to find. And once you find a window, you can call DisplayFamilyTree, and it prints out a nice little map on the screen. Well, actually, it returns a string that you can print out if you want of all the windows underneath that window. And then so you can look through that list and say, okay, here's the one I want. Its class is this, and its title is this, just to make sure, and that kind of stuff. Double click is a method. You give it the X and Y coordinates and also a list of keys. So for instance, if you want to shift left click at some coordinates, you give it the coordinates X and Y, and you put shift in that list, and then it will go ahead and press the shift first, and then move the mouse. Well, move the mouse to the XY coordinates, and then double click at that location, and then it lifts the shift back up again. And again, you can override the down. That you can say shift pound down, and it will push the shift down and leave it down, even when the method is done. It won't return it if you want to do something else before you lift the shift key back up. Get class returns the class of the window that you found. Get handler returns the Windows handle. Get parent returns the handle of the Windows parent. Obviously, get rectangle returns the rectangle, the Windows rectangle. Get title. Hide, I think, is equivalent to minimize or is minimize. Is window, is it checked to make sure that as far as Windows is concerned, is this handle still valid? Because if you dismiss a window, like a pop-up, you dismiss the pop-up, then the handle is no longer valid. And GUIAutomate itself uses that. Every time you do a search for a window, it first goes through its table of windows it's already found, checks each one of the handles, says, is this handle still valid? And so it keeps its table purged of invalid handles. And left click is just like the double click. Maximize maximizes the window. Minimize, mouse move to the window. Restore, right click. And as you saw earlier, set foreground window brings it to the front. So window demo. Oops, I probably should have said what it's going to do. So we're going to have, we got one called DisplayFamilyTree, and it'll just demonstrate that function. So it'll find, I think it finds a Explorer and then lists everything that's in the Explorer. And then we'll have another one for using Notepad to write to the Notepad and close it and discard the text. So we'll go through that whole process. So that was window. DisplayFamilyTree. Oops, I'm supposed to not have this one open. It's going to confuse things. I have two Explorers open right now, and they have these experimental files or pre-named files in them for the demo, and these folders are included in that distribution. So here we go. Oh, actually, this is returning the. This is returning everything it found in the entire system as far as Windows is concerned. So it found a button. Oh, that's a start button, apparently. So then here's some tray. I don't know what that is. Console window. Oh, this is the command shell right here. Let's see. Here's PowerPoint. Everything underneath it. And an important thing to remember is that if you're looking for a window, if you want to find a window, if you don't see it in this list, that's it. You're done. I mean, GUIAutomate. If GUIAutomate cannot find it in this list, then there's nothing you can do. And let's see, here's one of the Explorers, here's the other Explorer, and so on. So this sort of like is your starting point. If you don't know what you're looking for, you can just dump this and then figure out what you're looking for. And then the other one was, what was that, Notepad? Here we go. I think that required me to open Notepad again, so yeah, it does. Okay. Open Notepad, then press Enter. Okay. So here's a dump the family tree of just the Notepad. Brought it to the foreground, and I have telling you down here what's going on if you can see it. Right to Notepad, and it wrote hello. And then press the Alt F4, so you got this, and dump the history, or dump the children of that pop-up window. Oops, cat object method new. That's nice. You know, I added this button class. It's really just a wraparound window that just provides the standard class name for a button, so you don't have to. And I must have broken something. Let's see if it's just missing from there. Huh. Wonder why it.
Take a look at your script.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got the use
Can't. Get rid of some of these windows here. Notepad. Okay, so what was the message again? Window button. So it's this one it's complaining about here, right? Window button. Oh, that says edit box. Why does it say edit box instead of button? Well, let's just fix that then.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Do replace all, yeah.
Okay. I know this works, so I must have messed something up when I copied. Or maybe I fixed the wrong one, but and this needs to change too. Okay, I think everything else is fine. Let me look at edit and make sure that doesn't say button. Or actually, if it did, then it would work, wouldn't it? So this might be in the distribution, the messed up file. So.
Yeah, you can send me.
Okay. Oops. Let me look at edit box and make sure that it looks okay. It does say button. What is going on here? So how come it didn't work? Oh, because I didn't include this one. It was.
Yeah. So if you run that, it would have been easier to rename the files.
Yes. Oops, I got that the wrong way. That's right, this is edit box, right? So, and I think
Yeah, your class.
that was supposed to be edit, was it? I think it originally was edit. Okay, let's try this now. And Notepad is still open. Okay, I'll open it fresh here. Oops. Okay, again, it prints out the just dependency tree of the Notepad. Move Notepad to foreground. Right to Notepad. Close Notepad and then print out all the history of the. There we go.
Real-time debugging.
Yep.
Good job. On the fly. too.
Okay, so the file for that. Let me get rid of these other ones. Okay, so the DisplayFamilyTree. Did we go? No, and this is a yeah. Did we do? We didn't go this one, did we? So in this case, I'm going to get a list of all the windows in the system. So with no parameters, no class name, no title, nothing like that. It's just going to return everything that's a window. And then I just print out the everything it finds one by one. And then call DisplayFamilyTree for each of those. This is going to return actually the top windows, the application windows. Okay, and then for each one of those, we're going to call its DisplayFamilyTree to show what's underneath that window. And here we show the class name, get class. We show the title, get title. And that's what you are seeing here. That's basically what prints out things like this. The DisplayFamilyTree prints all this out. And then this line up here is printing this stuff here out. And then window notepad. Okay. So we get a window, button, and pop-up object. So we find the notepad. So create a window. The title is Untitled Notepad. And we bring it to the foreground. We write the text out. We press the Alt F4 to close it. And then we wait for the pop-up. Oh, and it'll, by default, it waits for 5 seconds for a window to appear. If it doesn't appear, then it returns, and it's going to return undef. And then you can make a decision if in that case. And we display the pop-ups family tree. And then, using the pop-up as a parent, we find the Don't Save button. And then we left-click that button. Okay. Any questions on that?
I have a general question. Is there any opportunity to maybe get what's inside of a window?
You mean like a list view?
Like text. If the window contains text in some window or...
Yeah, you saw I had an edit box thing, and right now it's just a wrapper that just provides a class. But eventually, if I get the time, I'll put methods into it to like get text, you know, and whatever else you can do with edit boxes. And a big example of this will be the next is the ListView class, because that one has a lot of methods in it. Actually, you can actually read the ListView, you can find cells in it, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because that'd be useful. Like things like Task Manager, for instance, has all kinds of text inside of it, but you can't just do a cut and paste to get it out. But something like this, it seems like might have an opportunity to get that and monitor what. Let's say you know that there's 20 tasks that should be running on your system. Well, if they're not any of those 20, maybe you want an alert or something like that to see what else is running on your system.
Right.
And that'd be useful.
Oh, yeah.
Script to have.
Yeah, it's a matter of, again, time and then just finding the documentation on the edit box or the edit class and then just implementing the methods that they make available.
And so is that limited by Win32 or is it limited by Windows API or?
I'm sure it's just the API.
Okay.
So, and because that's the big problem you have with the breaking is that you move to another Windows and that class goes away or is replaced by some other class. And if you can't find the documentation for the other class,
Right.
you're hosed. You have no idea what kind of message to send to the window and what to expect back. So. Okay, finally, we will, I shouldn't have to restart this every time, but. Okay, so review then of the other buttons, or other windows we have. Of course, it's a button, an edit, and a pop-up. And all these do is, right now, is just define the classes. And for a pop-up, the class name is that funny thing, #32770, wherever that came from. Who knows, but who cares? And then find the list view. So this is not only provides a standard class name. Oh, and by the way, you can add your own class name. So if you run a situation where you say, well, okay, I have an edit box, but it has a slightly different name, you can tell the module, I want to add this to the list of valid class names for an edit box, and then it'll work then from then on. And I'm not going to get into those methods at this time. But this defines a number of list view related methods that are specific to the list view. So display will actually read every single cell in the list view as well as the headers, and then print out, or it returns a string that you can print out that produces a nice human readable image of whatever GUIAutomate sees in that list view. You can of course double click the list view. However, with the list view, all the indexes, like instead of just X and Y, you actually have row, column, and a search column, as well as offsets, and then your keys. So you can say, I want to search for, say, row, I want to click on row 2, column 3, or if you want to put text, I want to click on, say, the word Sam under where the column has the name, I don't know, Peter. And then you might say the search column is I want to search in the column that's titled with a header, say names. And then you can say then offsets from, once it finds that cell, these X and Y's are relative to the box or that cell. And we can, there are a lot of problems actually dealing with list views. You need to make sure that things are actually in front of you. And like you can have a list view element that's out of sight, you can't click it. Even though GUIAutomate can find it, it tries to click, but the mouse is going to go way down somewhere else and it's not going to work. So you might have, usually you have to call ensure visible, and I think usually, and GUIAutomate does that for you automatically, but it's available for you to use. If the row is not visible, it calls a method, a system call that makes sure that that row is visible. Get cell coordinates, get cell rectangle. Oh, the cell coordinates in this case, I think, returns the logical indexes as well as the contents. Because get cell rectangles is going to tell you the top, left, right, bottom of the cell. Get header text, so it's going to return an array that has the text of each of the header entries. Get view text returns just a two-dimensional array of what's in the view. Left click, mouse move, all those usual things. Select is going to, select is, you want to select a number of entries in the list view. So you want to select everything that starts with an S. You can make a regular expression that says, if it matches this regular expression, then select that row in the list view. And then translate coordinates, that probably, you probably never ever have to use that. That uses that to normalize the coordinates, that it all makes sense. Sorry. But it's available anyway. So we have a demo. So this demo, the display, will have two explorers open, which I already have, and I'm going to run this demo, which will display the contents of those two list views. And then we'll have another one for mousing around. It will do click on various places on the list view using various of the addressing modes. And there's a drag and drop demo too. And that will be the end of this. So, yeah, I need to get rid of this. Here we go. List view display. And there's our two list views for you to read. And then what was the next one? Was mouse. Okay, so it's going to move mouse to the center of the list view, which it's at right now. Now it's going to move mouse to center of header 0, 1, or the column 0, 1, which is the header. Oops, can you see that? Okay, now it's at 1, 2. I think it's off the screen. Now it's selected all the rows. Now we select row 2, and I have the mouse move out of the way so you can see it. And then select all rows that have a 2 in the name column. And then select all rows that don't contain the letter B. And then open the cell contains T1B. Okay, so open that edit box there. Okay, then close that edit box, and then double clicked on it to open up this file in Notepad, and then we just close Notepad. And finally, we have a drag and drop. So it selected the top item, pulled it over to the other list view, and now it dropped it. And I have delays in there, obviously, so you can see it. So it would be much faster without the delays. All right. So that's as much as I have. Those are all the modules I've written, and hopefully somebody will find it useful out there.
Yeah.
Okay. What time is it anyway? Oh, only 40 minutes. I thought I'd go longer. I usually talk too fast.
I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried using this automation with, say, a browser?
I remember that one demo that dumped all the windows. I did that with the browser window open, and I didn't see anything that looked like it was going to help me.
Oh, okay.
So
if you can find it, you might be able to automate it. What you're saying.
right, and I think with the browser at the time, this is like years ago when I tried this. Maybe it's different now, but I mean, I found the browser window and I found some controls, but all the stuff that you were really cared about is not showing up.
Right.
So it's all embedded inside the browser.
So applications that hide their innards would be difficult to automate then.
Well, with this technique anyway, because again, this is just drilling down through the list of windows that Windows says that it has. And if they're hiding things or whatever, then there's no hope that this technique will work. I think for window browsers, they do have some kind of automation, but I think it uses a very different technique.
How do you know documentation-wise how to get the handles and the child pieces of the windows that you have? Maybe some windows have a button, other ones don't have a button. How do you know what you can look for and what you can use?
Yeah, well, I just looked on MSDN way back when, and it's not real easy. You just got to do a lot of searching, and finally you find what you're looking for.
Things are poorly documented, but every once in a while you find little snippets of code that people used out there, and some of them work.
Exactly. So, and trails like that too. You look at what other people have done, and then you just try to put all the clues together. You have to be an investigator, and if you're lucky, you find it. So.
It was hard to write, so it should be hard to use.
Yeah. But if you want, we can even look at a little bit at some of that. Like again, what really makes all this work is where you make the system calls. So if we look at,
I suspect, though, you could make this work with the browser even with just what you've got. Because you can click on, you could maximize your browser, click on a particular point in the browser, which might be a bookmark, it's got an icon at the top. And then you can use your tabs to maneuver around an HTML
Right.
form.
Can you how do you find out like a place in a window, the coordinates?
well, yeah. You're talking about using like,
Just like what
You
you
would
said.
figure it out. I mean,
There'd be a coordinates, and then you can say press here, and hopefully that's where a button would be, you think?
right, you're talking about like using a dead reckoning system. So you're just saying that if nothing changes, then I know that if I just move to the left this much and move up this much or whatever,
right.
and you can make it work that way. And of course,
Generally, you would build your own little tool to get your coordinates. So, because on each computer it might be different depending on whether you zoom in or zoom out or whatever in your browser. But once you get it set up, you expand it and you have a little tool. So you put your mouse on, and your tool tells you the exact coordinates. That's what you plug into your script, and then from then on, it's all automated. Now you can log into your brokerage account and do whatever you want to do. You can even do through his menu select stuff. You could cut and paste into whatever, save whatever you want, and massage it later. If you want to put it in the database, you have another script that would just regex it out and dump it into your database, all automated.
But there's nothing where you would roll around the screen like this, and there'd be some little box that would say
Yeah, that would
300-246.
That would be pretty easy to write.
yeah, with the proper research, you can find the calls to do that, and maybe write. That'll be a nice addition to this module is a method you can call that says, hey, okay, now move your mouse to where you want to go, and then click, and then that tells it the coordinates. So that would be. It's just a matter of finding the right call to do that. So just as simple as that.
Even more fun is write a program that records your movements as you do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Macro recorder.
Yeah, when I started writing this, it's like I wanted to be able to use hard things. I said, I want this cell, I want this thing. And so I didn't even look at that kind of stuff. I didn't want to use dead reckoning at all. But unfortunately, then I found there's lots of conditions where you just can't find, you can't find what you're looking for. You have to use dead reckoning sometimes, so unfortunately. But like, let me see. On your question of like finding a window, if I look in window, it's going to be the new method.
I have to give you points for documentation and well-formatted code. That looks really easy to read.
Yeah, I'm really good about, actually, I really, believe it or not, I actually enjoy internal documentation because that's when I find most of my bugs. When you're trying to lie to yourself that this really works when it doesn't. It's like,
Trying to explain it, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, this doesn't really work yet.
yeah. So, yeah, I like to do that. And I'm sort of obsessive compulsive about formatting too, so.
I resemble that statement.
So let's see. So there's get descendants. Okay. So what starts this is there's a system call called get desktop window. So you just call that and it returns the handle of the desktop window. And then I have a get children method. Let me find that. So there's a system call for find next window, or so you give it a handle and it tells you what the next child is. And I'm not exactly sure how it. Oh, well, okay. Well, I'm sorry. You give it the handle of the parent and then the index of the child you want. So you start with 0. So then you just call that and it returns the handle then of that child. And then eventually you get back a null pointer. It must be. Yeah, because this is wild child equals. So eventually you get back undef, and then that's when you know you've got all the children. And then you go through the same process again. You take each of those children, and then you can drill down exactly the same way. All the mousing and keyboard stuff actually all uses the same function called send input. So even the mousing there's no mouse move function I'm calling it. It's just saying you're sending these commands to send input that says move the mouse. In fact, that is the biggest function here. It does a ton of stuff to make life easy for you. And it's not in this one, it's in the other one. Some of these modules are a little bit schizophrenic in their documentation because I normally document everything together. You have the you start the module. You have the introduction documentation, then the code, then documentation code. But I noticed on CPAN they tended to put all the documentation, at least what I saw, at the end of the module. And I think it must make it compile faster because they'd have to plow through all the documentation.
It's actually a mix because some people do
Okay.
their pod in line, just like what you're talking about. You'll have the pod right above the method that it's describing.
Okay.
Sometimes people put it all at the bottom. It's just whichever.
And so I had intended to put this up on CPAN if I ever figure out how to, and so I started reformatting everything for what I thought was the standard. So some of the modules have everything at the end. There is actually some advantage to that. On the one hand, I like it all together, but then on the other hand, when all the documentation at the bottom, then all your code is a lot smaller, so everything's closer together. You don't have to zip around so much to find what you're looking for. So.
Actually, we have a video for that.
Oh.
Greg Hill did a presentation, I don't know, a couple of years ago on how to get a CPAN account and all that stuff.
Okay.
So yeah. So check
In
it
fact,
out.
you had a presentation here, and that's the one that I missed, so I didn't have the camera. I mean, there's no camera, so.
Okay.
So it's like, oh.
Maybe that was the one, I don't know. Now I'll have to go look.
Well, that was the one where I lost track of time, and then you called me, I think, and said, "Are you coming?" And I said, "Oh," and it was just too late to get there. So. But yeah, send input. It here's all the mouse commands that you have, and all these are just
Flags.
yeah, they're just flags. And then here's all the virtual keys, and here's the value that goes with sending that virtual key. And then here's
That's a
Oh.
treasure trove of information, though, just right
oh yeah.
I was just thinking of that.
Yeah.
Oh, and then too is the text table. This is how the keyboard text works. Is that it takes each character out of the string and then looks that character up in this table, and that tells it then the virtual keys it has to press to produce that letter. So this is all in here. So I only added these 4 special characters in here, but okay. And so then here's the main thing. So it's going to parse it. So if it starts with move, it's a mouse command. So then it parses the rest of that and figures it out. We also have wheel. You can do wheel commands. Here's the clicks to go with it. Here's where it looks for a key with an up or a down. Here's where it looks for 2 keys glom together. Here's where it looks for 3 keys glom together. So it's going to do down, down, up, up. And then for 3, down, 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 up, up, up. And then here's where it does the text. So the way it works with the V key actually does the text too, because all the keyboard text routine is just a wrapper that says input, and it sends 2 keywords. One is text, which is the key, which means that the following string is the actual string to print out as text. So this processes that, and then even does Unicode stuff, which I've never tried because I don't know if it's working or not anyway. So, but supposedly this works. And then this is where it actually collects all the characters, all the virtual keys together that you requested, and then sends it to the system command. So, any other questions?
Very nice.
Okay.
Good job. Thanks.